my name is Rob Dunbar, and I am a former Pilates instructor trying to get back into it.
Okay.
uh,
Nice.
for about 22 years, I retired from that and became a Pilates instructor. Through the course of life, I am now a stay-at-home dad slash entrepreneur and working my way back into the Pilates world.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think I missed it, broke out a little bit. What did you say you do for 22 years?
Ballet. So as a
Oh,
professional,
ballet.
yeah,
Okay, nice.
yeah.
Do you have all the injuries that come with that, or are you
I
pretty
have
good?
every single one of them and probably more.
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's interesting, your conversation about what you were talking about prior is I was at the top of my game. I was at the top of the ballet world, and
Mm.
I didn't have much, from there to go in the ballet world. And when I retired, not that all of that went away, but I don't have that anymore. So it was very interesting that that conversation you were having about mental health. It for me was the opposite, where I was at the top of my game. I was at the top of the ballet world. I was a principal dancer doing principal roles. And
Mm.
then after I retired, I had to find who I was without that.
Yes.
And so it's still a long
Is
path.
it? Well, yeah. I mean, talk a little bit more about that because I remember being like a young trainer, and one of my this is cycling through here. I'll wait for it to catch up. All right, he'll come back and I'll finish my thought about the identity crisis. Hi, Adrienne. Julianne. You're gonna bring it back in there, Rob. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about
Yeah, no worries.
that.
Yeah, okay. So I was gonna say, like, I had a personal training client, and she was a principal. And as we were training, she came up to her retirement, and I remember weeks of our conversation during our workouts was around what is life after education look like, because she spent her whole life building up to this point, had opportunities to go and grow higher, but instead stayed as a principal and had a tremendous impact as a principal, and that's it, right? So I mean, there's this whole thing of wrapping your identity in the work you do, and not even realizing that you're wrapping your body, you're wrapping your identity in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I guess on that same level, I became immersed in. I became the roles, and it's kind of like an actor. They get involved in what they do. They become that part. I was a dancer. I'm still a dancer. I will always be a dancer. Obviously, my body can't do it,
Yeah.
but you still have that mentality of being a ballet dancer, and it's a hard transition to now not perform, not go take class every day, not have 8 hours of workouts every day, how you
Yes.
transition into real life, so to speak, and
Mm-hmm.
and mentally deal with not being a dancer anymore.
Yes. The other part to that too is, much like when I'm talking with like professional athletes, whether they're at the top of their game or they're kind of still trying to work on their game. Like, 'cause I've talked to a lot of guys like in the G League or like playing overseas and stuff. There's this sweet spot where it's like, okay, I want to dive deep on this, immerse myself in this so I can get to the next level, but then also give some space to what's next, but not betray the thing I'm still chasing after.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in ballet, it's really hard because you have to put yourself 100% into it every day.
Yes.
There are dancers that have the ability to, after work, they, study and they become something more. But when you're a dancer, that's all you think.
Yeah, we got some trollers now.
And yes, I definitely scared the crap out of her all the time as the Beast.
Oh, that's too funny.
Carrie and I actually met in ballet 16
Okay.
years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. She is actually the reason that I became a Pilates instructor.
Okay, and why did you listen to her? What was it about what she said that you're like, yeah, maybe I'll do that?
I'll be honest. It took a long time. I should have done it way prior in my my dance career. But when you're, have a body fat of 5.4 and you weigh 160 pounds soaking wet, you don't really think about working out more. So,
Right.
but once my career started to kind of come to an end, it became, what do I do physically after this to at least continue moving well? And I think she finally convinced me that at least try this. I
Mm,
wasn't a fan of yoga, me personally. That's just, I like to move. I don't like to stay stagnant.
mhm.
And yoga for me was very still and very in the moment, even though you're still supposed to stay active in the pose. For me,
For
it
sure.
was very still.
Yeah.
So I finally took Pilates, and I really kind of never looked back from there. Went,
Yeah.
went into my certification, and found teaching was, I love teaching. You guys had a great conversation yesterday about teaching group classes. I really
Yes.
enjoyed teaching group classes, not
Right.
necessarily more than 6 people on reformers, but like a
Hmm.
mat class where you have 30 people, and that inner
Yes.
the people, and everybody's trying to do their best, not what I,
Yes.
not what your partner can do, but your best. And that,
Yes.
found that I really enjoyed that world. So
Sure.
dove into the group fitness world more than anything else, and Pilates was still always there, but I became more of a group fitness teacher than a Pilates teacher. And then through other issues that I had with Pilates owners and people that were above me, so to speak, in the Pilates world, I started to doubt myself in the knowledge that I had of Pilates.
Mm,
So that was a
yes.
thing too for me to start working through. Um, and it's
Yes.
interesting. It's always been, and this kind of goes into the conversation we were going to have about men and Pilates.
Hmm.
It felt like I was unwelcome as a man in Pilates, even though it was
Yes.
created by men, or a
Hmm.
man. Men have always been a part of it. I felt that I was not an outcast, but kind of like not wanted.
Not, yeah, not, you're not inner circle by any means.
Yeah.
Like you're, yeah.
And there were situations where, I would be training someone and I had a good rapport with this person. Like we knew what we were doing. This wasn't the first time I'd trained this person. And someone else came in and started interjecting to what I should be doing in that session. And
Yeah.
that's really hard not to then second guess yourself of, okay, well, wait, I thought I was on a good path. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I'm doing the wrong stuff. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's an
it's
interesting, like,
of trying to be a good student as
yes.
well as be the teacher.
Right.
Carrie, I think, says it perfectly in the fact that if you're not always a student, then you're not really a good teacher.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I
100%.
totally believe that. And so yeah, I've kind of fallen out of teaching a little bit, and I'm starting to get back into that want to teach Pilates and give back to the world of.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's my path now. And I was going to ask you, have you
Sure.
ever been in a situation where you felt in Pilates that you were unwelcome in that moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was thinking about that, and part of the reason why I was a bit late is because I always have these conversations with my business partner here, and we kind of bounce stuff off of what we're talking about today on the show, and I get like in a real life kind of conversation with him. I personally haven't felt that,
That's
and
wonderful.
yeah, but part of the reason though I think is because of where I live. Now I'm in Toronto. I'm in the Toronto area, so as a black male Pilates instructor, there's few of us, very, very few of us. I could probably name
Right,
three. Um, but at the same time, there's also a novelty to it. So you're not on the outside looking in, like you're like the center, and then everyone's like, okay, well, like even today, I'm late because someone found my class on ClassPass, and I haven't even put a class out there yet, and they registered, signed up, paid, and showed up. And I'm like, I have someone right now, so can you come back later? Because it's like, well, there's a novelty to it around
right,
here, I think, which kind of it makes you welcome because it's new and it's different. I have Grotz equipment and I'm a guy, and like, you know what I mean? Like, so it kind of works in my favor a little bit around here.
right, right.
But I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate how people create this nucleus and then you're not welcome in. for any reason. So your guys are good enough to be not welcomed in. It could be you're too heavy, or you're the wrong gender, or you're wearing the wrong type of clothes. Like it could be anything. You could be othered for any reason, right? So I get that. I was actually going to circle back to something you said earlier
Of
around the
course.
group classes, and you're saying how you love the group classes. And I remember Misty and another, maybe even Carrie or another dancer on saying that like that's my performance now.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. When you're in front of more than three even people, you are performing. I mean,
Yes.
ultimately, you are the person in front. You're giving direction, but at the same time, you have to create the camaraderie. You have to create the
Yes.
feeling of that class. So there has
Yes.
to be some type of performance within that.
Yes. Well, okay, so then this is where the dancer community and the like other sport community comes in, because we were joking about Remember the Titans the other day and
Wonderful. Yeah.
saying how love that movie.
Yes.
When I stand in front of 30 people teaching class, I am coaching. I am that head coach. I'm getting everyone on the team to march in cadence. I'm getting
Right.
everyone to do their part, to do their best in their role in that moment. So I'm not performing, I'm getting them ready to perform.
Right, right, and that's an interesting perspective of your background versus the dance background.
And yeah, then that's the point that I'm making, is that my background informs how I present myself.
Right, right, that's awesome.
But everyone does that, and I think we should all lean into that.
Yes, yes, and I think that goes into that thing of your past dictates how you are as a teacher, who you are as,
Yes, who
and I
you are as
think
a teacher.
you can't take anything that you've had in your past life. You need to bring it all with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about that doubt, that's the piece too. I was going to say, because my background is in personal training, there's many times in the Pilates world where I was taught like I'm a baby trainer, I'm a baby Pilates teacher. And it's like, well, no, I'm a full grown man in the fitness world. I'm a baby in the Pilates world. So
Right,
in the same way as you, if you've been a principal, if you're a teacher and you're like, all those different things, you've always been a teacher. You're just learning a new language. So the doubt that would come into me would be, I have 50,000 personal training exercises in my head, but there's only two ways to do this Pilates exercise in my head. So now I'm like, I panic because I'm like, okay, if we can't do a roll up, what do we do?
right, right, and it
You
is
know what I
you're in
mean?
these people that you're supposed to be dictating what they're doing, and you're second guessing yourself, and okay, well, I have all this knowledge in something else.
In something else. How much ballet knowledge do you have?
Right, right,
Right? So you need to walk in with that confidence of I'm the king of the ballet world, and I'm going to show you what I know in this Pilates space, as opposed to I know nothing but these three exercises. Let me just hide over here. And
yeah,
so like I had to talk myself off that ledge so many times.
nice, nice, yeah, I love that, yeah. uh
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting too, because it goes back into mental health, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Everything goes
Mm-hmm.
back to mental health essentially. But like you said, that confidence of knowing, I know what I know, and here is what I know, and I can show that to you. I think in the
Yeah.
ballet world, once you get to a certain point, it's just technically getting better at something, not learning new
Yes.
things. And I think in the Pilates
Yes.
world, you never stop learning new things.
Yes. Rob, I'm just thinking about, we're talking about like Carrie's saying that hype energy person, and Soltik, who's in India, Pilates guy, just joined us in the chat. I feel like sometimes we shy away from walking in our confidence.
And some of that comes with not wanting to quote unquote seem like the asshole. uh,
Right.
in
Yeah.
in the ballet world, sometimes I will admit this, I came across as the dick. I and I didn't mean to do it. It was just the confidence I had in my abilities as a dancer,
Yes.
and that came across as the wrong way sometimes. And Carrie helped me understand how to perform that and perfect that and get better about that. But it's interesting because it is the same thing. You walk into a class and you see this guy in front who's obviously very confident in what he does, and it's a different vibe. It's a different feeling.
Right. One of my clients this week was talking about when he was in martial arts. He's a black belt in whatever discipline. And he said when he was teaching, he was the taskmaster. He was very arrogant, but then he'd also get down and do the 200 sit-ups with them. You know what I mean? So his justification was like, I'm the man, but I'm going to get down there and just do it with you. So like you have to level up because I'm doing it. So he justified his arrogance by being the one in the trenches with them.
Right, right.
So like the point I'm making with all this is like we don't want to go to that side. You know, when we're talking about even, you know, sales, for example, like people like us who are like these warm fuzzy helping people, and then you say, well, you have to sell your services. And you're like, I don't want to be a pushy salesperson.
Right.
You know, like you're so afraid to be that person over there. But the reality is that if you just become a little bit more assertive, you're still so far from that person over there, you'll be fine. Right. And so with all that we're talking about is, you know, not being so arrogant that you're repulsive to people, but walking in enough confidence that people aspire to walk in that level of confidence.
Right.
Without the fear of being that super arrogant person on the other side. Like I think they were still coming from a pure enough place that we're not going to be that person again.
Right. Right. And I think that's a wonderful way to do it. A mentor of mine in ballet said it perfectly. He said, you know, when you're on stage, you want to be, every man in the audience wants to be you, and every woman wants to be with you. And I think that was
when you're doing it well.
With that arrogance, and not showing the arrogance, but showing the confidence.
Yes. Yes. Say that quote again for me, please.
Okay, so when you're on stage, every man in the audience wants to be you. Every woman in the audience wants to be with you.
Yep.
And again, it rang very true to me, and I always kept it with me. And I think he said that to me maybe it's got to be 25 years now, and I still remember like it was yesterday.
Okay, so let's hang on that quote for a second, and let's make that quote safe for the person who's ready to cancel us because we're being arrogant here. Let's translate that, because I don't want to let that escape, because we don't talk about representation. We talk about seeing ourselves in people. We talk about those things. So there's a way that you can do things in a way that inspires the next, or there's a way to do things in a way where it's off-putting for the next.
Definitely.
How do we do that in a way, that quote, in a way that it's inspiring for the next, the person who comes in who's never done Pilates before, the person who sees you and says, I want to do a private session with you because X, Y, and Z. Like, how do we make it that attractive?
I think it has to be, like you said, with confidence, but leaving the ego at the door. And I think the best Pilates instructors that I've ever had, the best mentors that I've ever taken from, are the ones that literally, like you said, don't have the ego. They'll get on the floor and do everything with you as just as much as they're going to dictate what you're doing. So it's got to be a level of confidence without ego.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And adding to that confidence without ego is, I feel this is something that I try and do a lot, is portray to the other person that I want them to succeed so badly. If anything, I'm going to err on the side of wanting it more than them, and I have to reel it back in.
And I think
that's where it comes from.
A good instructor and great teacher is the want for your customer, client, whatever you see them as, to get better, your student to gain that knowledge. And
Yes.
it also goes into the same conversation of, are you teaching or are you instructing?
Yes.
And
yes.
And if you're just instructing, then you're just giving a class. And a teacher teaching knowledge, you're giving your knowledge to someone.
Yes.
And you can't give ego.
Yes, exactly. So to that point, before I read Carrie and Misty's comments, if I'm saying to the crowd through my actions, every man wants to be me and everyone wants to be with me in that context, I'm also somehow in humility showing them something that will give them the hope to believe that they can be that.
100%. Right. Right.
You
I
give
think
them enough hope, right? Like,
within that has to be the ability to be vulnerable.
yes.
And on stage, I think that was what I was best at, was being 100% vulnerable to anything and everything, and being okay with whatever came at me.
Yes.
People got very upset because I could literally be laughing off stage with a person and then go on stage and be like that performer, that part. And they
Yes.
didn't understand how I could switch so quickly. It's because I was vulnerable in the moment. I could just be me.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
And
And
that
and
circles back to what we were talking about earlier about how I find that without ballet.
yes. Right. Exactly. So Misty's comment at the bottom says, "But do you want them to be you or surpass you?" And I would say to that, they are saying they want to be you. I am saying you can
I will
surpass me.
definitely.
They don't believe that they can surpass me because they're just trying to wrap their head around being me. It's me as a teacher who's saying, okay, you can surpass me. You have that base. You could probably do this.
Right, right. I would say that's very true. And the fact that all the great ballet teachers I ever had didn't care about how good I was. They just wanted me to be better. So that's
Yeah.
great that you're a principal. I'm still giving you the knowledge to get better.
Yes.
So even at the top of your game, at the top of the Pilates world, you should still strive to have that sense of being better for yourself. But then,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that goes with surpassing you and becoming better than you. Once
Yes.
that happens, then you become a student again.
Right. Absolutely. Circling back to Carrie's comment, give the energy you want to receive. Be the teacher that wants to learn with the student. And then, yes, and then Misty said, the teacher must always display their own humanity.
Def-
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the best thing is when you're training someone, and I found this a couple times when I was teaching just strictly Pilates, was I learned something within that session that my student taught me. They didn't know
Mm-hmm.
they taught me that, but
Yeah,
I
exactly.
led into, oh wow, okay, that exercise does this for this type of body, this type of person. That's different from,
Yes.
because I'm 6 feet tall. Well, they're 5'1" and 100 pounds. So that's a completely
Yes.
different how they move in that exercise.
Yes. Absolutely. And you were saying earlier about how that teacher was interjecting, and that sort of thing. When I was just kind of learning, that would be something that's intimidating for sure. But then you get into this headspace of like, wait a minute, just at a leadership perspective, you just can't do that. It doesn't matter how wrong I am. That's what you're doing is wrong as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest part about that I had to just step back for a second and take my own mental break, so to speak, was at that point, it's like, okay, well, you think that you're doing a service to me, but really you're doing a disservice to my client. And that's who I care about. So I love knowledge. I love to be told, hey, why don't we try it this way? Hey, look at that. It worked wonderfully. Criticism is
Yes.
a good thing
Mm-hmm.
in the right moment, context, and time.
Yes.
Without those three things, it becomes a really overbearing criticism. I'm
Yes.
a dancer. I mean, I spent 22 years being told I was too fat, too small, too this, too that. So I'm used to the criticism. It's just in a moment
You have thick skin for that.
giving my knowledge, the criticism came to me at a really vulnerable spot.
Yes. Yep. The yeah, that's tough. That's tough. That could the to the wrong person. Well, I guess it happened to you too. You did pull away. I was gonna say for the wrong person, you could pull away at that moment. You could be like, okay, peace out,
Yep.
done. I'm not
Now
teaching
this,
anyone evermore. Like,
and I'll be honest, this was a leading thing where I'd had one owner do this to me somewhere else, and I moved
yeah,
to a big box gym, and they, did what big box gyms do. They cut costs, and Pilates became a secondary thing.
yes, yeah,
And then I went to this other studio, and then that's when this happened. So it was kind of a culmination of things that happened back to back to back that at that point I was like, well, maybe it's me. And I had to second
that's that's an honest reflection, perhaps.
reflection. You have to.
Yeah, yeah.
But then now it's been about a year or so, and I'm to the point where no, it wasn't me. It's a their own issue, and I had to get to where I understood that it was their issue, not my issue.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So what's next? So like, what does this comeback trail look like for you?
So I think this comeback trail looks like, obviously, Rooted in Pilates is a apparel website that we designed that we are actually
Okay.
have launched in the past week or so. So it's
Nice. Okay, I didn't know that.
water bottles, all kinds of stuff like that that relate back to Pilates and get back to who I am, which is a giant lover of humor and puns, dad
Okay.
joke entrepreneur.
Nice.
So that's something that we've done on the side. We're also in the process of developing a movement app. So
Okay.
it's based around Pilates, but not just solely on just Pilates. So hopefully we'll be launching that in the next couple of weeks, and really
Okay.
just getting myself back into my own personal workouts of Pilates and getting myself back into
Good.
what I love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Carrie's comment. I remember Carrie talking about, and it's funny, I'm just making the connection with the story because she shared on one of our shows more in depth how brutal this person was.
Yeah,
This first, yeah,
brutal.
yeah. So we're not going to give, I don't
And
want
I
to give
feel
too much
like
airtime to them, but
that's a little bit of where my feeling of being unwelcome as a male came. And
yes,
it took me a really long time to understand that it was her hatred of men, not me particularly. So
yes.
it was a battle of my own personal,
Good reframe.
right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I can change your own personal struggle with men. That's not my deal. I'm not a therapist. So finding my own personal mindset, and I think that's a good way of saying it, is my mindset had to change. And I think I'm
Yes.
finally where my mindset is changing in the fact that no, I deserve to make money. For example, ballet dancers don't make money. So I
Mm.
deserve to make money now. I deserve
Okay.
a great job and a great career and a path that I
Hmm.
love.
Yes.
Obviously, we do this because we love it, not because it's easy.
Right. Exactly. And because you love it, it will look easy to the
Right.
person on the outside looking in, right?
Absolutely.
At times. That's no, that's great. That's fantastic. The that's exciting. The how can I put this? What you experience with this person obviously is going to inform how you teach the next person, how you are. Like, do you feel like sometimes you're looking over your shoulder when you're teaching? Like, do you feel like you have to kind of self-regulate to make sure that you're in this place where like, no, I know my stuff and let's go.
Definitely. And I feel like for myself, it's now back into a point of not going through a whole certification program again, but immersing myself in workshops and speaking to people and really just getting myself back out there in the fact of I know what I know and I want to learn more.
Have you found a Pilates mentor to the level you had your ballet mentors yet?
Never. Nope. We have had people that we love taking classes from, and I found people that I relate to, but never to the level of a mentor. And I think that's also where Pilates is having a struggle right now, is the muddling of
Mm-hmm.
what Pilates is for certain people. Like I'm definitely
Yep.
not a classical trainer. That's just not me.
Yep.
I enjoy finding
I
my own.
shrugged my shoulders because I was like, it doesn't matter. But yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
But there are a lot of people in the Pilates world that say, okay, but if you're not classical, you're not actually teaching Pilates. And I don't
Mm.
understand that mentality. I don't think Joseph Pilates would ever say this is the only way. Even through
Mm-hmm.
his years of teaching, he changed the idea of certain exercises and what he was doing. Now,
Yeah.
with the knowledge we have about the human body, I bet he would think completely differently about certain exercises.
Right. And the funny thing is, like, I think also on Joseph Ply's tip, I would say that I think he would have said this is the only way. And look at the exercise I just made up right now.
Yes.
Because it's evolving and it's always evolving. And we need to
Yes.
give space for it to evolve.
Yes. And I think that's a wonderful way of saying it. I think in the ballet world, that's where great ballet came from. Great dance moves came from, was this is the real step, but look at what I just did.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? And actually,
Yeah.
I didn't want to go there as much as on the mentoring piece. Can I ask what your age is? Like how old you are?
I'm 39.
Okay. I'm 47. This generation, I'm not calling it XYZ, whatever it is, but just this generation for us as men is one of those generations where we don't have people above us saying, let me reach down and help you up. And we're not the first ones to say, let's look down, hey, let me give you a hand.
Right.
We're this gap generation, not just in Pilates, but in life, where this happens, where we're in this no man's land. So we have to be the ones who are responsible to reach up and to reach down.
And that makes complete sense. It definitely feels like that right now. You know, we went through a certain certification program, and the leader of that program is a wonderful person. We just didn't connect on that level of
Yep.
wanting that as a mentor, so to speak.
Sure.
Still respect everything he does, and it's amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't my cup of tea, so to speak. And
Yeah.
I think right. I think finding that balance of reaching up and down and becoming that to other people is very important, uh, especially where we are in the U.S. There's not a lot of certification programs, and there's not a lot of people seeking that out. So there aren't new teachers as much as there was maybe 10 to 15 years ago.
Yep. Yeah. It's interesting.
It is.
I
It's
mean,
in
yeah.
bodies.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, you have the luxury of having a fellow Pilates person in your home. I mean,
Yeah,
like, like
very, very lucky, and a very good Pilates person.
right? Yes. Yeah. So I mean, so yeah, you can bounce those things off, and it's so funny, right? Like, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Perfectly. We're trying to find a community of people, not necessarily mentors anymore. So we want that
Yes.
community where we can all have open discussions like this, maybe agree, maybe not agree, and that's okay. And that we're not hating on each other because we don't agree on one little thing where 98% of what we would talk about we agree completely on. And that's where we're
Yeah.
trying to find that community of people that love what we do, love Pilates, love movement, and want to progress that.
Yes. Absolutely. That's exciting. So, so the apparel dropped, the app's on the way.
Yes.
What are you doing with your movement? Like, where are you teaching right now? Are you doing privates, group? Are
Uh,
you
not
guessing with
actually
the community, outdoor stuff, anything?
Not right now. I'm not actually teaching anywhere. You know, where we live, there's only a few options. So right now, for me, it's kind of more getting into the online world of teaching, and trying to get myself on that level so that it can also reach more people, because you know, you're very landlocked in the city that you live in. Those are the people that you can affect. Well,
Right.
obviously, like this podcast, for example. I mean, we live somewhere where we would never be able to have this wonderful conversation, and
Yeah.
I love the fact that this is available, and this is where Pilates needs to progress towards.
Yes.
And then going
Absolutely.
a little tangent is getting men to understand that it's not girly, it's not less than, it's just as good as doing weightlifting
Yeah.
in the right setting, in the right moment, with the right teacher.
Yes.
Obviously, if I go into a female's class that she's teaching very women Pilates,
Hmm.
that's not my thing. That's not, but I could still get something out of it. I Another great mentor of mine in ballet said that no matter what level you're taking of your class, you should always be able to get something out of it. So even if I
Yeah.
take a beginner Pilates class, I'm still getting something out of that, because I can go back and connect back to the root of why I became a teacher, why I
Yes.
started Pilates.
Right. Exactly. Yes, I think we need mentors at all stages, even the in-between stages. Yes, exactly. And that's why, here's my own soapbox. I mean, I've said this so many times, presenting at, Brink and all those things, the three mentors that I believe that we all should have in our lives, like the person that we look up to, the person that we lock arms with, and the person that we are helping up, right? So there's a
Yeah,
look up, a lock arms, and a help up type people, because I think that we need those three people at every stage.
absolutely.
So that movement community, like Carrie's saying, that's your lock arms person. Who is going and who's in the trenches with you? Who has young kids with you? Like who has opened a studio the same time as you guys? Who's just started doing it online? Who's opened a Pilates app in the last 6 months? Like reach out to them. Those are your lock arms people. Even if you can't find someone who's going to say, I did it this way, I'm making six figures, this is the way you do it, come follow me. Like you might not find that person, right? Like
Right.
but then there's also someone who said, like, I just finished my certification, I just saw your core conversations, and I'm thinking about starting an apparel company. Can I just, learn some stuff from you? And you might be like, well, who am I? Like, I haven't reached where I want to get to with my business yet, but sure, come on, let's figure this out.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing about the community that is Pilates, though. It is very much open arms, and let's all help each other, and that's
Yep.
what we love being a part of, is that community of wanting to help each other out, and like you said, finding those three different levels of helping others, helping yourself, and being a community.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, who is your ideal client? Who is that person that you love working with? Like,
I
if
be
this
honest,
person comes in and they'd be like, yes,
has no issues. And I know a lot of people say that, but within that, because they have no issues, then I can explore and learn and train that person in a great way. Sometimes when people come to us and they have many issues, the amount of exercises in your box gets shorter, 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 shorter. So then you have to then find different ways, better ways, easier ways to help that person. Whereas the person that comes to you with no issues, it's more of an exploration of the work instead
yeah,
of having
yeah,
a box. So then, and I know people may hate on the fact that I don't want a person with any issues. That's just my ideal client. I like working with people that have issues, but that would be the ideal client.
yeah. I'm sure Carrie and Misty are both ready to just like fire something off in the comment section right now. Um, because there's people who see that as fun. Let's get this person walking with a balanced gait. Let's
Ex-
go. And we're going to work on the minutia of this movement, and they're going to feel free. And by the time we're done, they're going to be walking down the stairs without holding onto the handrail. That's a
right,
W, right?
right.
Like, and that's the thing. And I respect that's their space. And then this is your space, and mine is something different. Everyone has their piece. And Misty, much like, remember the Titans, everyone on the football team has their specific role. Everyone's got to do their thing. And I love that, right? So, um, yes.
And I think
So I just have I'm just poking fun at you, Misty. I just love the fact that everyone has their thing, right? So it's
and I
great.
think say the same thing. Her ideal client might be some specific person, but she gets the ones that need her.
Yes. Well, I have to say though, I chase after the ones that I really like to work with too, right? And someone has said, like, when I've asked that question, they said, well, the person who finds me is, and actually that was Carrie that said that. Like right? So we get into that, and then it's yes. So right, yes. We get into that conversation, and then she dropped that line. The person who finds me is right. So I can go out there with my preconceived idea of who I'm going to work with, and then the next five clients come in with a neck issue, and then 6 months from now, I'm the neck issue specialist because that's all I've been working with, and I've been diving deeper, reading journals, and then researching and asking questions, and found a mentor. That's my specialty now because I
Right,
loved it, and
right.
I dove into that, and that's my thing, and I find it's so funny how that can go, right? So I mean, I throw that question out, and you see how massively loaded that question is because that can
Yes,
be 5% of your client base,
right.
that ideal person.
Absolutely. Unless you get to where you're training, the university of something's football team.
Yeah.
Then it becomes obviously more you're exploring because they are very strong.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Strong in some places and weak in some places, right? Like, yes. Love the side conversation happening here. Um, because these are respected movers, people. Like, these are some fantastic teachers that are having dialogue in the chat, right?
Yes.
And I think that that's the thing. Like, when we have these conversations from where we're at, there's so many people that we can learn from, so many perspectives on the work, and those perspectives are caught when, you know, the Misties and the Carries are in the room, right? Like, it's such a wide range of people and work and things that we can do. So, dude, I'm cheering for you, man. I'm really hoping that you find your place, and that those experiences that you've had in the past really do inform the experience that you create for everyone else who comes into the room, like in the
Yeah.
positive way,
Yes.
you
And,
know?
and
So,
remembering, but not dwelling on, learning
yep,
from, not getting knocked down by.
yep, absolutely. What does your business look like a year from now?
Um,
I know you weren't ready for that question. I just thought of that
no,
right now.
wonderful question, and I think I have to really reflect on it myself, because I had a vision. Obviously, as a dancer, I wanted to be the top. I wanted to be the best, and I wouldn't say I got perfectly there, but I attained what I wanted to do. And now it's a matter,
Yes.
okay, within the realm of Pilates, what is it that I want out of it? And what can it give me? And I really hope that in a year from now, we can have this discussion and our app is successful. We're selling a crap ton of apparel, and we ultimately can then, because we have the ability, help others that don't have the ability to get what we have. Because we
Yep.
look at life right now and we're like, okay, we're doing well compared to a lot of people out there, or even where we were 4 or 5 years ago. So
Yep.
hopefully in another year or so that we're able to get Pilates out to people that wouldn't normally be able to get to it.
Great. Good stuff, man. Yes. As Missy says, go, Rob, go. Cheering for you, my friend.
No, and I really appreciate having this conversation, and someone being open and vulnerable enough to have these great conversations that other people can listen. And like you said, maybe somebody's listening that catches on to something that we both said and is like, wow, that really helped me. I
Yeah.
didn't even realize that's what I was missing or finding.
Yes. Well, I hope that you walk away from it as inspired as I was, right? Like, I mean, I saw DJ starting from scratch's picture about him doing his thing with such intensity and such passion. And I'm like, that's how hard I need to do my thing. And then
Yeah.
hearing you talk about how high you were in the ballet world, and now you're starting this Pilates journey, is like, get that high in the Pilates world. Like, I mean, I think that that's the thing, that you have a blueprint and you have a frame of reference. Go, right? Like, you mean, and that's that confidence, and take people with you. But like, yeah, definitely chase after that, man. Like,
Right, right. And again, work has never been the issue. I'm willing to work.
yep. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Man, I appreciate your time. I have no clue how much time I have left on this live because I started it late. But yeah, I'll make sure I tag you on this and use it. Like, recycle the content, like pull any soundbite that you think really, reflects your business and your philosophy and stuff, because that draws people into your work, to your
Awesome.
apparel, to your app. You know what I mean? So like, use it. Like, I mean, when you roll your app out and you want to come back and just pull your soundbite about that here, like, use it. Like, it's
Awesome.
totally yours to use and
Awesome.
to grow with. So
That's one.
amazing. All right. Well, to those of you in the chat, thank you very much. Thanks for all of your comments. Um, Shorty Locks Wild made a comment about loving having men in her class. And it's great to see everyone embracing this essential form of movement. Absolutely, it is essential. I love the way you said that, an essential form of movement. So much good stuff in there. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to sign off here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you very much as well.
Yeah, man. Have a great weekend, and yeah, definitely cheering for you.
You as well. Thanks.
All right. Take care, everybody.